Hi, everyone. Happy Labor Day. I'm Krishan Wright, the host of the Blaxit Global podcast and the founder of Blaxit Global. I am so excited, as I know you are, for today's session because we've been hearing people talk about the great resignation, people that are getting tired, and the pandemic has opened up a lot of opportunity for people to get off the hamster wheel and realize that there are other ways to live, better ways to live. So, for today's session, I couldn't think of better people to invite to have a conversation than Stephanie Perry. You know her as the house sitter extraordinaire, and Roshida Dowe. She is on the loose. So, I am so excited to have them both join me today. There's Roshida. And there is Stephanie.
Hi, everybody.
Awesome. Hey, hello, ladies.
Hey.
So, I am excited to have you both here. You are two powerhouses in your own right, and to have you to come together and create what was an incredible event last year, Exodus Summit. And I know we will talk about 2.0, Exodus Homecoming 2021. But for people that are not familiar with you or who have already heard the story but would love to hear the story again, maybe I'll start with you, Stephanie. So what is it that prompted you, because you've been on the podcast and you called yourself a professional quitter. So tell us a little bit about your story.
I quit my job when I was 41 so I could travel for a year. I'm now 47. It's still going. I'm now house sitting and I help other people become house sitters. And with Rashida's help, we run together Exodus Homecoming or Exodus Summit, which is I think it's the summit for Black women who want to make a big change, who want to take a career break, who want to move abroad, who want to become a digital nomad. If you want to work differently or have a different relationship with work or cut off your relationship with work, I think that what we have created is your path, like your way to get there.
Absolutely. And Roshida, well, I know there's a bunch of people watching this. So you are going to be our next guest on the Blaxit Global podcast. You guys heard it here first. So for those that are not fully aware of your story, can you share a little bit about you?
If Stephanie was a professional quitter, I guess I'm a professional laid offer. I don't know. I got laid off twice in my career, and they both really changed my relationship to work. The first time I got laid off was in the middle, like the height of the recession back in like 2009. And after that, I realized that I no longer had any interest in my identity being tied up in work. And then when I got laid off in 2018, I realized I no longer had any interest in working. Right? It's funny how that comes to you. So like Stephanie, I traveled the world for a year, and people kept sending me job descriptions along the way, like, this would be great for you. Look at this. This is a job opening. And every time I saw it, I was like, I'm on an extended vacation. How dare you? How dare you? I see you trying to be helpful, but like, that's not what we're talking about.
You were offended.
I have someone who still to this day sends me jobs, and I'm like, sis, it's 3 years later. It is 3 years later. So you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that.
I'm not coming back.
I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. So that was my story. It was like once I really tasted what freedom was like, right? Like you go on vacation and it's like, oh, this is fun. This is great. 3 days, a week, maybe 2 weeks. But when you haven't worked for anybody else for like 6 months voluntarily, because I had not worked with other people for 6 months involuntarily, and it was just a stress case. But when I got to choose not to work, it was making the choice to work for other people. It just wasn't for me anymore. And so that's when I linked up with Stephanie, and we did things like small things together, and then the summit happened. We've been out here changing lives ever since.
Yes, you guys are changing lives, and I want to get into that, but I definitely want to acknowledge all of the wonderful chat lines that are coming over and acknowledge them too. So we have D, hi D, Wendy, hello, hello, T, hello, Jill, hello, or Gil, Sister Geek, hey, how are you? Gooby, Ms. Uzo, Rosalind, hey, I'm excited too. Ivory, Indigo. Oh yes, see, Sister Geek is ready. She says she knows all these gems are going to be dropped today. She just says, hey, 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 y'all. Angela, hello, hello. Katrina, hello. Yes. Oh yeah, it's 10 p.m. in Lisbon. Oh my gosh, wow. Yeah, I'm glad you're here.
Katrina already did her Blaxit.
Oh, yes, yes. And we had Shar for the current episode on Lisbon. And so, yes, Lisbon, and we'll probably get into that in our talk, is definitely on my radar now. Oh, I love the passport pictures. Yes. Vicky, hey, Vicky. And Adelia, hello, Adelia. Picky Girl travels the world. Hello, lovely. Hi, thank you for all joining. Yes. So yeah, so one of the things that I'm curious about, I know the story, but people might be listening and think like, oh, okay, so Stephanie, you're a professional house sitter and you've created House Sitter School. And Roshida, you have From Burnout to Bliss, you have a course that's around helping Black women. And so for you two to come together, some people might say, oh, well, are you guys like in a similar space in different ways? But you guys came together and you saw that you could be better together. So you can talk a little bit about that part?
Yeah, a lot of people would say that we're competition, we're competitors. Which I don't know, it's funny to me, but we do serve the same women, right? The same group of women come to us for kind of different things and sometimes the same things. It just is exponentially more powerful when we do things together. We can reach more. I don't have any desire to help every Black woman who wants to go. I'm sorry. I need to sleep. I need to eat. I need to read books and lay on my bed and take naps, right? Mm-hmm. I can't do everything. It's wonderful to put our ideas and our forces together. We come up with better ideas and we can just serve more people, right? Help more women.
Yeah. And not just better ideas. We're more powerful together than either one of us would be by ourselves. We not just serve more people, but we serve them in greater ways than we would have. Like by myself, there would be no Exit Summit. I would be like, you want me to do what? I won't sleep for how many days? But when I have a business partner who is like-minded and we are in this together, I know that I can't take a shortcut I might normally take in my own business because like it's not just me, right? And it's not just me. And so we're both people who really, we're both of us are focused on serving the same women, but frequently serving them in different ways.
Yeah.
But at the core is serving Black women and helping them get free. And because that's the core of both of our platforms, it never feels like competition. It has never, since day one, ever felt like competition. It's always been like, how can we collaborate? What can we do together to help more people, more Black women live their dreams? Because like, otherwise, what are we doing, right? Like,
absolutely. It's all about, for me, and I was actually having this conversation earlier today with Victoria, who's our moderator in the Blaxit Global podcast Facebook group. And it's this place of coming at a place of abundance versus scarcity, recognizing that there is enough for all of us to go around and that we can all eat. And so to your point, it's like putting, combining forces and putting your heads together, you can have a greater impact, right? And an impact on the people and for the people who attended, for example, the Exodus Summit last year, to now, as we lead into Exodus Homecoming, to take action. Those people were impacted in a profound way and were sitting, virtually in their seats and listen to the same thing. I attended last year's summit as well. And to sit there and listen to all of the great resources that you all provided and still make available, to then take those nuggets and put it into action, I'm so excited. So can you talk a little bit about, the summit was monumental and you guys put on a wonderfully, beautifully well-produced event. And then, a year later, all of us, myself included, was like, okay, what we gonna do this year, y'all? Like, what we gonna do this year? So, like you said, it was a lot of work. If it was one person, double the effort, I would imagine, with two. But a well-deserved rest indeed is necessary. So, how did you all land on Homecoming?
Homecoming was Stephanie's idea. I'm gonna say.
Wow.
So last year I was like, I wonder, we should do this again next year. And she was like, no, we should not. And now I'm gonna let her talk now because this was all her.
I think you're on mute, my dear.
Sorry. Yeah, I was like, we did it. We did it. It was amazing. It was super helpful.
And it's done.
Yes, it's done. Right. And people were like, well, what about next year? And even during the summit, we were like, the goal is not for you to have to come back to the summit next year. Right? The goal is for you to make your exodus, go, Blaxit, leave, live your dream. We don't want you to keep living for the summit every year.
Right.
But it turns out during last year's summit, we had attendees who became like our greatest successes, right? Our greatest success stories. And we have alumni from last year who we were like, okay, we need everyone who didn't get any progress last year, or who just didn't know this time last year. We need them to hear from women who were exactly in their seats a year ago. We want them to hear from these women exactly how they got out, right? How they are now living their dream abroad, or how they've taken a sabbatical and have come back stronger. So it happened that because we had so many success stories, it only made sense for us to put another event together so that we could have these women come and share their successes and pull up the next group.
Absolutely, because you, like I said, as an attendee last year, and I have my ticket already for this year. What I'm excited about for Homecoming is being able to say, wow, you know what? We were at the exact same conference, right? We were at exactly the same place. Now, everybody has a different timeline and a different timetable. But for those that attended and either were already on the journey or hadn't even thought about potentially pursuing, whether it's a career sabbatical or taking that leap and journeying abroad, to accomplish that and then be able to say, hey, I did it, and this is what I got from the conference, and these are the steps I've taken, to me is very profound and something that I'm really excited about hearing.
Yeah. We're excited about it too. We've seen over the course of the past year, a lot of women who have exited, who've Blaxited. We see them as kind of like, I don't want to call them emissaries, but it feels like we have little consulates overseas, right? Like we have little Exodus Summit spokespeople, and so people go, there's a woman in Turkey, and almost everyone who goes to Turkey talks to her because she's been there since the summit, pretty much.
Wow! Oh my God!
There are people like that where they were at the summit, and other women who were at the summit too. When they get there, they reach out. And part of what Stephanie and I wanted to create was that sense of community. So we're really happy that it's happened. And we also know that it's a fundamental part of taking this journey. So we wanted to create, even though we didn't want to do exactly what we did last year, we did want to create an opportunity for there to be more community formed in a more structured environment. So that when people names are really familiar. Like if you're in the chat for 3 days, like people will get to know you. You'll be able to figure out where people are. And have people have Black women that you can reach out to in different places. Like we talked to Kina, who was one of our speakers last year, who's in Johannesburg. And as we were live with her, we saw all these people saying, oh yeah, I reached out to her after 7. Or, oh yeah, I talked to her. Oh yeah, when I'm coming down, I'm going to see her. And we were like, oh, this is a thing. This is a real thing. Or actually, yes.
That is
so
awesome.
You know, we don't take credit for that. Black women love to form community. We don't take much credit for it. We want this, like, if this can be a starting place for you to get to know people who were in the place you want to go or who want to go there too, we want you to experience that here. We want you to experience it in a safe space, because that is the key for us, and why it's a Black woman only summit, is we want it to feel safe for everyone to safely express their fears, their joy, their dreams in a way that, and it's for it to be held in a safe container. So that's what we're trying to create.
Absolutely. That camaraderie is so important. I'm sorry, Stephanie, go ahead.
I was going to say, you know personally how important that is, right? You've created a community of your own because you know how important it is to be able to have conversations with the people who are involved in the conversation, and not having other people come in and be like, well, why are you concerned about that? Why are y'all asking, is it safe to go to wherever? Just go, people who don't understand.
It's amazing, because one of the things, and when I created Blaxit Global in the Facebook group, everything is organic, right? And so it has a life on it unto its own. And so you're right, there was a desire to make it a safe space, particularly with everything that was going on in 2020, to have a space that was free from the noise, free from the distraction, and allow people to, vent about what's going on, get resources and support, whether it's, dealing with family, deciding, hey, they're ready to get off the hamster wheel, tired of the rat race. And then those unique challenges that are unto our own community, that for me, it was really important that some things are just not for public consumption, because there are conversations and things that we work through as a people and can understand where we're coming from, that doesn't need to be digested by the larger mainstream community. It needs to be in a safe space so people can allow themselves to show up authentically, be vulnerable and get support, even if they are saying something that might be on the fringe, but knowing that, our experiences need to be validated, and that doesn't always happen in our day-to-day lives, which is unfortunate.
That's exactly.
Absolutely. So there are, of course, a bunch of people that have commented, so I want to get to some of this. So so hey Francis, how are you? And Angela, yes, no competition needed, let's help each other. So what, Sister Geek, en route to Turkey, look into a stopover in a country. Depending on the airline you choose, you can do a stopover for hours or days. Absolutely. This came up actually the other day when someone had asked in the group about, being able to take in another country, like doing long layovers. So it is, take advantage of all of that good stuff. And I actually put the link to Exodus Homecoming in the comments of this so that you can register, get your ticket. So we talked about homecoming and the fact that women are going to be sharing their experiences now that they've made the leap. What else can we expect?
Some of our attendees will be getting some we'll not be getting one-on-one. Some of our attendees
that people had a short bit of time to get something physical shipped, which some of y'all that were the case. Y'all
that's a good place to start. We're gonna pretend Stephanie didn't say anything. We have an upgrade. There's a weekend pass that allows you to watch all of the sessions and to watch the sessions from last year. So you get access to last year's sessions. And then there is an accelerated pass, which if you got before a certain date, which is already passed, you got a box of goodies along with the ticket. But like, goodies are great. Like, I love to open a box, right? Like, yay. But better than that, you actually get some additional group coaching sessions. And one of the reasons it was important to us to do that this year is because last year, some of the women who made the fastest and most significant progress were people who were in the group coaching sessions. So we're doing 2 group coaching sessions, one during the weekend and one after, date TBD. There are no one-on-one coaching sessions here. None. No. But the group coaching, you'll be able to come and get your questions answered. And our goal in that is that, you know, we see it and we do it. We see people, we don't want you to be inspired. We want you to be inspired, but we don't want it to stop there. We want you to take action. And those group coaching sessions are set up for you to take action, right? They're set up for you to say, like, this is the one thing between me and my dream. And then we brainstorm about ways to get around it, right? If you're feeling a roadblock, if you feel like you just need a little bit more support, if you feel like yes, girl, you got this, is the thing standing between you and that dream, whether that's a sabbatical, whether that is starting like a whole house sitting tour across the US, whatever it is, we want you to come to the sessions and really get that energy, because Black women together, I mean, we gonna tell you, you can fly to the moon with your own wings. Like, you know us, like that's what's going to happen. We are going to make the impossible possible. And so that's what we want. That's why we want you at the group coaching sessions, is because it's the difference maker. Stephanie said this before. It is the difference maker between going and not going. And so we really recommend it.
Yeah. Stephanie, you were going to add something?
That's it. Roshida said it right. I don't disregard what I said earlier, but yes, that's it. That's what you're getting, right? You're getting you're going to get some inspiration. Anytime you hear someone else tell their story, you're going to get some inspiration. But yes, you're going to get the details. You're going to get the steps. You're going to walk away knowing how to make this a possibility for you. Anytime we talk about this, and you hear it, Krishan, anytime we talk about moving abroad or going abroad for a long term or being a digital nomad, people are just like, I don't know where to start. You're not going to just come away with the first step. You're going to come away with your steps, no matter what your situation is. We have women who are mothers, right? Women with children, which I think is so wonderful. I'm so jealous of those kids because just like you are going to benefit from time abroad, so are your kids. Mm-hmm. So we've got women with kids. We've got women who left a job. We've got women who took a break from a job and went back. Women who work online and can work from anywhere. Women who are running their own business and need to be able to support themselves abroad. Whatever you think your thing is, is your wide, you would love to do it, but you just can't. We probably have somebody there who will be able to help you get over that, right? Get your plan, your individual plan in place, because we all do things differently. Roshida now lives in Mexico City, right? Roshida did bop around. She did the digital nomad thing and the remote and the sabbatical thing, right? So Roshida has done a sabbatical. She's also been kind of a digital nomad, and now she is she is a resident of Mexico.
Yeah.
She's a resident. She's got the paper, the card or whatever. I don't know.
Yes. I have the card. It's a plastic card. Yes.
Like the green card here. She's
a green plastic card.
Yes. Yeah. So we've done things a variety of different ways. Whatever you think is your thing, I hope that you'll come. We're at exodushomecoming.com, and I hope that you'll be there. Like, you can make progress towards that dream. Krishan, how do you feel like, how much progress do you feel like you've made from the day that you were like, I'm doing this, which I think was early 2020?
Yeah, I was planning. It's funny. I got inspired to definitely do it when I went to New Zealand on that solo trip in 2017. I had wanted for years to move abroad, but it was like it felt so big, too audacious. There were a lot of things that were going on in the background, and it seemed impossible. And now, fast forward, even from when I started Blaxit Global, I had one vision of how the journey was going to unfold and where I was going to go and all of that. And now where I sit in September of 2021, and I'm like, wow. Like last night, I laid on my bed and I said, I don't think I need to take any of this stuff with me. Like, I went, 2 years ago, I was like, okay, how much is it going to cost to move this and ship this and this and this? And then I'm like, okay, and when my daughter graduates in 2023, I'm going to move to Florida because I'm re-domiciling. America's not getting more than their fair share. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I'll ship the stuff to my mom's house. And then I'm like, do I need to take any of this? No.
None of it.
So it's changed. And that came from the summit, that came from the group, that came from the podcast, and having these incredible stories with different people, different parts of the world, different life experiences. And so when you are able to invest in yourself, to recognize not only, the circumstances around you, some are outside of your control, but the thing that you can control is you and how you respond to it. That to me is powerful. And so for anybody, for those of you, it's now 60 people on this live, for those of you who are sitting there and you are watching this, invest in yourself, invest in your freedom, invest in liberating yourself from constructs that are not meant to serve you in any capacity, and be able to pour into the knowledge that and the faith that will get you from where you are now to where you want to be.
I saw in the comments that some people were asking if they could still get the group coaching sessions. Yes. If you sign up for the accelerated pass, you can do that. And if you already have a weekend pass and you want to upgrade, there's an upgrade option. Stephanie, please tell the people how they can upgrade.
You will be sent an email. So when you get your welcome, if you have already purchased the weekend pass, you should have an email that tells you how to upgrade.
Okay.
If you purchase, because links are crazy. It's a crazy link. It's something like, I don't even know what the link is, but it's in an email. There's an email that has gone out to you. If you have not yet purchased the weekend pass and you want to go ahead and get the weekend pass to be sure, and then you want to upgrade when you can, you will get, when you get the welcome email, you will have the link to upgrade when you're ready.
Fantastic. And I just, I had it in the comments. Let me see if I can pin it. I'll pop it up on the screen, and then I think there's a way to pin it. But yes, definitely register for the summit. I will be there, y'all. So again, even though, I'm planning and making my moves, and I have this podcast and I have this platform, guess what? I still invest in gaining additional knowledge, because it's going to make the difference to me. And I would love to hear either of you respond to this. For me, when you make that step, because like I said, I have a lot of sidebar conversations with people. And one of the conversations that keeps coming up is like this whole free content thing. And I have my opinions on it as a marketer. But I will say that those that pay attention. And for me, I think that makes the difference in being able to get the cheat codes, basically, so that you don't spend time jumping from group to group, article to article, spending hours going from here to there, wasting time that you can never get back, wasting money. You can get money back, right? But time, that's critical time that is going to prevent you from getting to where you are. So is that something that you see that has come up? Because I see that oftentimes in the group is that sometimes people struggle with the value thing. My thing is, it's an investment in yourself.
Yeah, it's investment in yourself. It gets you there faster, and it kind of cuts out some of the BS. And we all hear managed groups, and so this is no shade to Facebook groups, but I think you know what I'm going to say. Sometimes the information you're given in there is not good. It's not.
Exactly. It's
I
you
see people
get
asking questions, and I see responses, and I'm like, that's not it. Ooh, baby, that's not it. But these people who are answering your questions, frequently what I see is that question needs like 3 different follow-up questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people answering questions aren't they're coming from their perspective. They're not asking follow-up questions. They're just blasting out an answer.
Yeah.
A lot of men. Because they must know. They have the answer.
Yeah.
And a lot of these have the answer people in Facebook groups ain't got the answer for you. They have the answer for themselves.
Yes.
And so being in a spot where you're able to talk to people who are knowledgeable, who've been there before, who you can tell, like these people on Facebook, you don't know what their experience is. Like you'll know from our speaker, Stephanie and I, you'll know what our experience is and where we're coming from. And we also, above all else, want you to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what's behind the person giving you the answer in this group. They might want you to be successful, or they might be pushing you towards some business or something. You know what I mean? Like it's just hard to know, but some of these answers are just real bad.
Well, you like you said, you don't know what they know, where they got their information from.
Right.
It could have been from somewhere that's not like valid or old or whatever. And so that's the thing. It's interesting because I know for us, we just launched Blaxit Global Passport to be like laser focused on the biggest thing that holds people back from moving abroad, which is getting their money right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're launching our book club selection. Our first one is Get Good with Money by Tiffany Aliche, the Budgetnista. And we're going to be pouring into that. And so I wanted to do that with deliberate intentionality because it is important to have that focused attention on your finances, but also, as you were talking about, from people who have done it. I have been, and I'll go into it more for those that are in Passport, but I have, been able to write a very turned over ship, let's say, because you were talking about Sheeta in 2008, when you had lost your job. I talked about it. I think that is one of the stories that's still floating around. I had lost my job. I was still married at the time. He had lost his job. We had both lost our job in the same week. Multiple cars, houses in different states, 2 children, and nearing $1 million in debt. Let's just say none of that is applicable right now. But when I talk about finances, when I talk about how you can, when you increase your knowledge base, when you invest in yourself, when you start to seek counsel from people who have actually done it, like I said, that's the cheat code. That helps you sift through the BS, get to what you need to get done, create a system, create a process that is tailored for you so that you can be in the winner's circle. You can sit in that seat and say, okay, got it. Oh, I got to move, or I want to move. Okay, here's the whole world. What's interesting to me? And it shifts the energy. It shifts the dynamic. You show up differently. And that's the thing that I think, as I look at this journey in the past year, I have been, enriched by each conversation that I have with every guest, particularly in a time where we're not together. We're all in 3 different places. And, just being able to hear those stories just enables you to think and learn and know like what is possible. But again, it takes that time and deliberate intentionality to take that next step. And again, comes down to mindset and investing in yourself by choosing the right people to help you in your journey.
Yeah, it really does make the difference. And you started this conversation talking about free content. There is a lot of good free content out there. And all 3 of us are content makers. Mm-hmm. And we make good content. We make quality content for the people. But one day I'm talking about X and the next day I'm talking about Y, right? Like I'm not always talking about the same thing. And neither of you guys are. Like we're all kind of like, well, touch here and there. If you want even if we're not talking about Blaxit, we're not talking about Exodus Summit, whatever it is, if you have a goal and this is like what you want to do, it's time to invest in it so you're not stringing those different pieces together from different people, right? Whatever that goal is, it's time to invest in your goal because, like Stephanie says, put it on your calendar.
Yes.
Right? Put it on your calendar, pay for it, and like add it. For me, it's like add it to a list daily. Add some piece of that to like to-do list daily. Like it's going to get done, right? It's going to get done if I do those things. If I'm like, I'll watch someone else's video when it comes out, right? I'll learn what. It's just the dream just keeps getting deferred. It keeps getting pushed off because I'm not taking focused action. That really makes a difference.
Then you just end up cheering for other people when you could be in the game, right? You could be on the field. You don't have to sit in the stands and just, we love it that people celebrate our successes and our wins. It's very nice, but we love it even more when you are on the field and we get to celebrate your successes and your wins.
And take credit for them.
We do take credit.
We're not shy.
Every time.
Let us take credit for you. Come on, y'all. You will at least be on the other side, right? You will have done it, and we can be like, look at her. Look at her. You know?
We did it.
We did it. But truly, like that's how it is when Stephanie and we're getting our speakers together. We were like, you know, so-and-so's been there since November or like this, like we keep track of where people are, even if it's just like a running list in our heads. We keep track of where people are and what they're doing and how their lives have changed. And it's really impressive to see. And I think you're going to love our speakers.
Yes.
We're excited about our speakers.
Oh my gosh.
We were super excited last year because we planned. Okay. So Stephanie hit me up, y'all. It's a little sidebar. Stephanie was like, what if we did like a summit and it was a few days and we had like 20 speakers. I think it was like 3 or 4 days that were planned. And I was like, what? Stephanie's never steered me wrong. So I was like, okay, sure.
I said, will you do it? Yes or okay?
I said, okay, sure. Why not? It's fine. And then 50 something speakers. And I think 7.5 days later.
It was a long time.
It was a long people's jobs ain't get nothing from them.
No. There were so many women at the time, and here was me. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm gonna slide that camera off. What y'all got? What was that?
We had so many women telling us like, I have not done a minute of work at all this week. So this year we decided to make it a little bit shorter. So, you know, it's a little bit of work. And it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And because we have learned some lessons along the way. Last year, what happened was each one of us was like, you know, who would be a great speaker? Let's see if we can get, we kept adding people because there were so many great people who want to be involved. This year we were like, neither one of us tried that. We were both like, this is our number of speakers.
Yeah. Because you said you went from 20 to 50.
Yes, we did. We went from like 3 or 4 days to 7.5 days. We didn't do that this year. We were like, nope, it is this long. It is this many speakers. This is what we're putting in. And neither one of us has strayed because we have learned. Even for people who are interested in summits, even with the two of us working full-time and a half on this, it wasn't enough bandwidth. Like we weren't kind to ourselves last year because we didn't realize what we were getting into. Now that we've done it, we're being much kinder to ourselves and saying like we want to serve all, but we have a great library of content from last year. So if you want to know the best way to travel with your kids, you can watch Monet, the Traveling Child video from last year. You can still access that. But we don't have to give you that fresh content this year. We don't have to give you 7.5 days of content this year because traveling with your children has not changed. Besides like a nasal swab, like it hasn't changed. Really fine. And because we are sticking to the limits because while we want to serve you, we want to be kind to ourselves. And last year was like, I thought I lost Stephanie in like October.
I didn't recover
she was never going to talk to me again.
I didn't recover for months. I'm like, how can we make the summit about sabbaticals about not working yourself to exhaustion and work ourselves to exhaustion. We're not doing that anymore. We're not doing it like that anymore.
Yeah, that's a big life lesson there, because you're right. I think one of the things, and I would love to dialogue on this further, as content creators that are multi-passionate, but we're most passionate about the people that we serve, right? And so that sometimes can bleed into other areas of your life, particularly, and I have not had what you guys have created, like a monumental summit. But yeah, how do you, I know you talked about this year, like you've created better boundaries for, the program and for yourselves, and being kind to yourself. Like, how is that showing up, because in a couple weeks, it'll be time for the summit, but how are you paying attention to your self-care?
We both have coaches talking about putting your money, into investing in you. We both have coaches. Variety of coaches who coach us on different things, who are showing us how to do it that way, right? We don't go to coaches who say grind, hustle, no sleep, right? So we have people who are giving us the example, and we're not. I don't think either one of us is doing things perfectly, but we're doing a better job. And then we coach women, and we want to be a good example to them. So we're it's like it's a daily thing that you have to practice, right? Yes. Maybe this week I am not answering YouTube comments as much as I love my YouTube community. Maybe this week I'm not going to spend time and answer YouTube comments. I just don't have it, right? I don't have it to give. So we have good examples of how to do it, and then we try to remember to be an example.
Yes,
for other women as well.
And there are some things that we learned along the way. Last year, we learned that we needed help. So this year, we're looking for help.
Yes.
We're looking for, if anyone's out there who really wants to see what happens behind the scenes at a summit, email us at hello@exodussummit.com.
You heard it here.
But we're also getting better at things. Like last year, I felt like, especially because we were kind of we were unknown in this space last year. We were like, we're creating this, we want people to come. But we don't know who's gonna show up, because y'all don't, we've never done this before. And so I felt like if there was an email that came into the inbox, I had to answer it in like a couple of hours. And now I'm like, beloveds, I see you. I love you. Respectfully, these emails gonna get answered when they get answered. Like, we've had to decide like what is urgent and what isn't urgent. And I know most people want their questions answered immediately, but if we continue doing that kind of thing, like the minute anyone had a question, we answered it, you won't get the summit, right? If you can hold on to your questions for a couple of days, you're going to get a lovely summit. If you need your question answered right now, we can't keep stopping what we're doing to do that. And so that's part of what we're looking for an admin for, is to help with some of the customer service things. A lot of times it's like, can you resend my receipts, right? Or like something like that is I understand why it feels pressing to the person asking for it.
Yeah.
But in the grander scheme of trying to create something with our own four hands, it's like we have to take things in a timely manner. And so I think that's the biggest thing. Is like last year, everything felt like an emergency.
Yeah.
Like everything had to be, I wanted everything to be perfect. This year, I'm like, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Is it going to be perfect? Honestly, I hope not. I hope we don't work ourselves so hard that we hit perfection. Because it doesn't need, right? It doesn't need.
That's not our brand. Perfection is not our brand.
We don't want it to be.
Yeah. You said the U word, urgent. We live, right? I say this all the time. We live in, everything is an urgent situation. We live in fight or flight mode, but we're not supposed to. Yeah. I hope that that's something that people can see from us, right? You're not supposed to live like that. And I hope that we model that for you.
Yes.
We decide what things are urgent and what things are not. That goes bigger than being a content creator, right? That is a national epidemic, right? We have an urgency epidemic, where everything is an emergency. Everything has to be handled right now by you,
yes,
right? you have to be the person in charge, particularly if you're Black or brown, and even more particularly if you're a Black or brown woman, right? It's urgent for you. And no, it's not. That's why we encourage moving to a place where ain't nothing urgent, right? Not too much urgent in a lot of the world.
You can't pour from an empty cup, one. Right. And two, and it's interesting, for me, and I talk about it, like I have a podcast marketing course, and I'm a firm believer in batch recording, because if I had to record my podcast every week, children would not be fed, bills would not be paid, like work would not get done, right? It's being able to create structure that allows you to show up differently, to show up as your best self, because you're right, perfection is elusive, it's a lie. And as I even start to with, 2022 is really the big year. But next month I'm doing my scouting trip in Costa Rica. And I'm even thinking like, okay, what does the content look like in 2022? It has to look different because my time is going to be shifting, right? I'm not going to be like, okay, 2020 was the pandemic. 2021, we're easing in, we're in purgatory. 2022, Krishan's got to find a country, right? So my time is going to be limited, which means I have to shift, production and maybe have a shorter season or whatever that is. But I've already declared it in my mind. It has to look different because there's certain things, and, I'll be bringing everyone along on the journey, but it's something that you, like Stephanie, you hit the nail on the head with this. Like, you have to be able to model that. Because sometimes I have had conversations with guests that, have, especially those that have come from corporate cultures where you're on that hamster wheel and you grind. Then they move abroad and they maybe create a new business. And guess what? That hustle culture that they've already been conditioned to starts to show up.
Yeah. One of the things that I think that has helped us along the way is that as our group grew and as we had more attendees in the summit, I think this was harder for me to accept than it was for Stephanie, because Stephanie's a tiny bit more chill than I am. But one of the things that was hard to accept was that, like, not everybody's going to be happy. Not everybody's going to be happy. And we had to get okay. I had to get okay with not everyone being happy. Like, we serve a large number of people. I would say like 99% of them are thrilled and pleased, but trying to make every single person happy is impossible and will run you ragged. And some people just want ridiculous things. Like, I had to learn that part of it. Like, some people as customers and clients want things that are not that you're not able to give them, not because you're failing them, but just because it's not, like, this is not a thing that exists. I don't have those. I can't just create that, right? And so coming to that realization has helped me as a content creator and as a business woman relax a little bit about what I can and can't do for my clients. Most of my clients leave very happy. The ones that we can't please, and we're happy to refund. Happy.
Krishan, you said that that 2022 is going to have to look different, but are you okay with that? Are you the type of person who's okay with doing less? Are you team do less? Okay.
It's interesting. Actually, it's a great question. It's something that, and I've been doing these videos lately on mindset. It's a mindset preparation, in being able to do that. And then, at the end of season 2, I talked about wellness. I've been on my wellness journey this year. I've also gotten a therapist, trying to do some prep work and things like that, giving myself permission, right, to look differently. But at the end of the day, it goes back to what I said about pouring from an empty cup. 2023, my daughter graduates from high school, which means 2022, I've got to be looking at colleges. We're going actually to look at a college next month. And then I'm going to Costa Rica. And then I have to do another scouting trip. I've got the dog. Like now it's getting real, right? And when I looked at the calendar, I was like, wow, I've set a date. And, I know when she graduates, which is, roughly like 21 months. And I was like, oh, somebody's like, oh, it's 2 years or whatever. Guess what? 18 months ago was the beginning of lockdown.
Yeah.
And for some, that felt like it feels like that was yesterday. That's how fast a year can go. We're almost at 2022. We are the final, 3 months? So 16, 15 weeks, and we will be celebrating a new year. That's how fast it goes. And so my attention has to be getting my kids settled, getting my mom settled. I will still serve, we'll still have new content. I'm still recording. Like I said, I batch record. I'm still recording so that, everything will be up. I have my editor, but how it looks, it will likely look a little different. It might be more leaning into YouTube. It might be more me taking people like with the video camera along on the ride, and maybe less of the, produced content, just because my bandwidth and capacity is going to be different. Mm-hmm. My attention has to be on my family. And then as part of that, I think it's incredibly beneficial. And I love to ask the group what they would love and what would be helpful for them on their journey. They've said that they want to be able to see, like, okay, what does it look like when you go on an exploratory trip? Like some of these concepts seem pretty nebulous to some at times. So I want to be able to bring people along, and maybe that's how that content is going to look. So it's organic and it's still coming into play, but 100% it's going to have to look slightly different in order for me to get to where I have to go.
I'm so glad that you're doing a trip to Costa Rica to scout it out. I think I know that you are also considering Portugal, but I think
I
am. It's underrated. Costa Rica is a great choice for Black women. I'm glad to see it, and I can't wait to see your scouting trip happen and maybe crash it.
Yeah. You know what? I say crash it because I was on the phone with Victoria this morning, our moderator, who's also season 3, first episode. And we were talking today, and she's like, oh, you know what? I might be coming to meet you in Costa Rica. I'm like, okay, let me know. I won't even finalize the last bit of I have a couple days where I haven't booked a place to stay. So I'm like, I'll just keep this open, right? Because one, it would be lovely to finally be in the same physical space as my amazing moderator who helps me. But also it's just like, I want to be able to take these opportunities. We've collectively created these incredible virtual connections. So to be able to take advantage of opportunity to share space. And, and I believe I'm a big believer in energy. And so whether it's, the collaborations, like this conversation or, private conversations, I think there is such an awesome energy that exists in this community, whether you are repadding, expat, aspiring expat, there's a lot of inspiration that everyone can take. And so that's what I'm excited about as I get closer to it getting real.
Yes, it is. It's crunch time.
I put a bunch of stuff on eBay yesterday. I was like, I was not joking when I laid in my bed last night. I was like, I don't think I need this bed.
No, pro tip. Roshida, talk to the people about storing their things.
What?
Yes.
What? I can't. You're going in and out. I can't hear you. Okay, so y'all, I try to be an open book and talk about the wins and the losses. And I've been paying for storage in the Bay Area for 3.5 years. And I have not seen the stuff in 3.5 years. And so we're going to call that a loss. I'm not ready to let it go yet. But we are going to call that a major loss. Like storage for 3 years. If it hasn't been passed down from like your great-great-great-grandmama, sell it. And if it was passed down from your great-great-great-grandmama, give it to your cousin. or like let them hold it for a while. Just I don't have a whole. I have a couch. I have an IKEA couch in storage. Why? Why?
Yeah.
Because so this is why, and I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you why I talk to all of my one-on-one clients about this. I thought that when I left for my sabbatical, I was going to step back exactly into my old life. The only thing different would be the apartment I was in, right? Could even be in the same complex, who knew? But I was going for a year and I was coming back to my old life. You know, almost no one comes back to their old life. Like that hardly, if someone leaves for 6 months, 12 months, 2 months, if they do come back to the US, and I have never been back, I've been back to the US, but not back to the Bay Area since 2018. If they do come back to their old life, they're not going to be living the same. Like people who come back aren't trying to step into the same shoes of they were in when they left, because we're not the same person anymore. You're not. You don't. I love my mattress. I wanted my mattress. I had to store my mattress. I wanted to come back and just be like, boop, take all this out of storage, put it up, done, art, everything, good, we're good. 3.5 years later.
Yeah, and that, first of all, thank you for being so transparent and vulnerable with that, because it is something that I've heard, people put it in storage. I've thought about originally moving all of my stuff halfway around the world and then moving it to my mom's and all this other stuff. And it is important because when you think about, and I think someone actually wrote it in the comments, Janelle, like the storage bill costs more than the items in the storage in a lot of instances. And so, like I said, legit, when I laid down last night, I was like, ooh, by the time I leave in 2 years, my bed will be 10 years old. And then, of course, I asked, because I have these, I won't say their names, but I have these voice-enabled devices that get easily activated. And so I asked, like, what's the average life of a bed? And they were like, 8 to 10 years. I was like, oh, yeah, all this stuff can go. I was like, I got my money's worth. It is going to cost me another bed to ship it to Florida and all this other stuff. And so I started to like tally things that, okay, it's either easy for me to dispose of or relatively easy to dispose of, donate, to your point, give it to a relative if it's something that has some type of, sentimental value. But otherwise, it has to go. And if I can sell it and make money, like I said, I put a bunch of stuff on eBay. For those of y'all, it's under my name if y'all want to support. But it's letting go, I think, is freeing. And for Stephanie, you let go in a different way where you're like, I house it. Like you are definitely like, at least to me, it looks like not attached to things in that way.
I don't even have a home base, right? So you're talking about setting up a home base, and I don't even have a home base. I guess I do. So I'm in my parents' house. So when I need somewhere to go, when nobody wants me to house sit for them, I come to my parents' house. But Roshida talked about how you're different when you come back. When you get to spend a lot of time in another place where you're not viewed as a worker, you really do come back a different person. I'm sorry to tell you, but if you have been raised in the United States, or if you have had a work life in the United States, you see yourself as a worker first. Mm-hmm. You just do. And I'm sorry. Okay. I know, because when you introduce yourself, you're going to tell people what you do for a living first, right? You view yourself as a worker first. You view your time as work first, and then the other things around it. When you get some time when that's not the case, you are changed. You are changed. And you don't even know what was going to come out. You don't know who you're going to come out. I don't care if you're like, I did not take a gap year. I call it a gap year or a sabbatical or a career break. I didn't take a career break to grow. I told you this on the podcast. I really didn't. I just wanted to go travel to some awesome places. But man, was I changed. And so you're not going to come back the same person. I hope that's not scary to people. But your priorities you will see a shift in your priorities, which is going to carry through like how you live and how you work. So I went from, you have to own a home to be a serious person, right? Your home ownership, Black excellence. Here are the things you need for Black excellence. I had some of those things. And I went from that to I didn't choose any of that. I didn't choose it for myself. I realized I didn't choose, right? It's not for me. If anybody who knows me will tell you that. Why was I fighting to be a homeowner when it's not for me? And so many other things are better for me, like house sitting in a house with a pool, where I don't pay not near a bill.
Talk about it.
Yes. So yes, you're changed. I'm changed. The things that I thought were important to me, it turns out they were never really important to me. I just was like playing a role, and came back from the sabbatical, came back from that year, and was like, oh, I get to start from zero and build an entire life. Rashida has built an entire life that looks like everything in it is something that we have chosen.
Yes. And what Stephanie said about start from zero, that's scary to some people. Because we like to hold on to what we know. Yeah. But starting from zero when you have a blank slate is so empowering. Like everything in my apartment is something I love because it's something that I purchased intentionally for this place. Yeah. Every choice, the apartment itself is something I chose intentionally. And a lot of times without a break, right? Without in the space-time continuum, unless you take a break from what you know, a lot of who you are, what you have, what you do is based on a decision 3 decisions ago. Like the city you live in, the neighborhood in the city, all of those things are based on maybe your job or something, you know what I mean? Like it's this huge interweaved thing, which often comes down to capitalism, right? And leaving America does not free you from capitalism, but it typically frees you from like the oppressive hold it has on you, right?
Absolutely. They're not going to put your job title on your tombstone. I mean, realistically, like, there are people that grind, think that they have to aspire. And there's nothing wrong with that. We've had our, career choices and successes in our own right. But they're not going to put that on your headstone. What's going to matter is the time that starting date, that year or date you were born to your end date. And then there's a dash. What do you do with that time in between?
Yeah.
That is what it's important. So this whole time, whether it's, the pandemic or being forward thinkers like you ladies and saying, hey, we've done it. We've taken a gap year. We've done a career sabbatical. We've taken a career break. Now the rest of the world is catching up because, of course, Black women are always trendsetters, and now saying, oh, the great resignation. Like, okay, y'all put a little hashtag. Okay, great. We'll co-sign that. But the thing is that we don't have to be tied, or our identity doesn't have to be tied to our productivity. It can be a time where we can stop carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders and put the oxygen mask on ourselves. Mm-hmm. I mean, even in the midst of everything that happened last year, a global pandemic, we were still saving the world. We were still saving America from itself.
Yes.
Right?
I'm so surprised that still in the middle of this global pandemic, the I'll sleep while I die people are still out there loudly with their message. And I'm like,
yes.
Like that hustle culture is so ingrained in America, right? Like if you are not driving a Lamborghini, it's because you didn't work hard enough. It's like, y'all ain't tired? I'm tired. I get tired just watching them talk. Like those clubhouse rooms? Ooh, what? No.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's too much. But would I have felt that way before I spent serious time exploring the rest of the world? I don't know. I might have just been like, okay, that's still not me, but like that's them. But now I'm like, you need a nap.
Because like what I was talking, we did a live a couple weeks ago, to celebrate season 3, and I had Julianne, who she was in New Jersey, and we didn't even meet when we were in New Jersey, but she left in August of last year and moved her family to Italy, and so I keep in contact, with people. And so I was like, oh, looked at the time and it did the time conversion. I'm like, oh, she should, be around. She was like, oh, I was taking a nap. I'm like, a nap? Like, it's siesta. Like, everybody's asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, what a concept. Like, rest. So when you start to see and experience what other cultures experience, some things, you're just trying to make sense of it all. But then there are, and I had this experience early on when I first took a trip. I think my first trip ever was like to Canada when I was in my 20s. And there were just certain things that I was like, oh, why aren't we doing it in America? Fast forward now 20 some odd years, we're just starting to do that here. But I remember when I went into New Zealand and, and I've talked about it, I think on the show, I have loved New Zealand ever since I was probably 10. And I grew up in Co-op City in the Bronx. Shout out to anybody who's watching this that's in Co-op City. But how a Black girl in the Bronx who had never been outside of the Bronx started obsessing about New Zealand was beyond me. And so I didn't get there until 4 years ago now. So I was in my 40s, and just being able to like see it finally and experience it. It was a million times better than anything that I've read or could have imagined. But it also showed a light to me about what was severely wrong here. Fast forward the pandemic, they are showing the entire world why New Zealand is the bomb, right? And so it's just interesting, like you said, when you have these life experiences, when you get out of the confines of, your day to day, and, a lot of it is conditioning, that's where the magic happens. That's when you're able to kind of like step out on faith, lead your life by design, not by default. And that's when, and I talk about the MLK quote about, the staircase appearing. Basically, when you step out on faith, things will happen, things will show up. You will show up in a different way than what you've ever experienced before. I think that's the beauty of it.
You're right.
It is. You say that you want something, and man, like forces just conspire to bring it to you. So I hope that women are not saying, "Oh, or people." Your channel is people, but we usually just talk to women. But I hope
mostly women. No.
I hope that
80-20.
Yes, I hope that people are not just saying, "Oh, it would be nice," but I hope that they're saying, like, I can do this thing. It's for me too. It's not just for a certain person or a certain group of people. It's for me too. If you want it, I hope that you can say that you want it. Find a community. We have communities, right? Find a community of people who are working in that direction as well, and get active, get involved.
And don't feel like the people who you see doing it are special. That is like the number one thing. Or that it was easy for them, or that like they could do it, but you can't.
Or that there was no fear, that they weren't afraid.
Right. Like but the Black woman you see roaming the world right now had to jump over hurdles to get there. And they had to, and they did it. They felt the fear and they did it. You can do it too. A lot of times I think people come into it with the idea that like, yeah, that worked for her, but this is why I'm different. Instead of looking at why you're different, look at how you're the same. Look at how the similarities in your life. So that's why we have different women coming to talk, women who are running their own business, women who have kids, like different categories of women of Black women coming to talk to you. So you can say, oh, this is how I'm similar, instead of this is how I'm different, so it won't work for me. Because like Stephanie said a minute ago, when you say what you want, it happens. If you say it won't work for you, it's not going to work for you. Who's gonna make it happen, right? Like who? If you've already decided it's not gonna work for you, who is going to make it happen?
That's right.
Exactly.
Right? Like
it's like, we know we're magic, but you still have to put in the work.
Look and be inspired by the people who are making it happen, and then take action. You see that Sally did something and Jane did something else. Figure out which one of them looks right to you and do it. It doesn't. A lot of people are waiting for perfection.
Yes.
A lot of people are waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect situation. They're looking for their perfect country. Ain't no perfect country, y'all.
No.
Pick a country, go there. If you don't like that city, go to another city. If you don't like that city, maybe go to another country. Like you can't spend your time. Go.
Yeah.
Like if you don't like Costa Rica, are you going to not Blaxit?
Oh, I'm definitely, and that's how Portugal got on the list. I'll actually go into it a little bit. So, obviously I'm always talking about New Zealand. There's a variety of reasons, one of which they're not letting anybody in. And so, my daughter was like, oh, you know what? I'm going off to college. And she's very attached to her mama, which I love. And so she's like, I feel more comfortable with you being not a whole day and some change away. And then the reality of it is that my mom is getting older and having some mobility issues. And for me, I was like, you know what? Let me try and at least stay within a half day. So I was like, okay, you know what? Costa Rica, had those great conversations on the podcast, did some research, want to test it out. And then I started thinking about, okay, that's great for the things that I need to feel comfortable about, being able to come back for my mom, my son, or my daughter. Then there's obviously, what am I going to be doing with my time? So I'm still, in the beginning stages of this journey. And there are countries that I want to see and experience. And then I've also made such wonderful connections through this platform that would be easily accessible or easier if I were in Europe and for, a couple years. And so whether it turns into, the 4 years that she's in college or something else, that's TBD. But I feel like, being able to hop on a train or a plane and in 2 hours be in another country, whereas, I'm in New Jersey. So if I get in my car and go 2 hours, I'll be at the Jersey Shore. But I wanted to be able to tick a couple things off the list while I am able-bodied, healthy, and things like that, which will enrich my experience. And then, maybe that'll be then time for Costa Rica, or who knows, I can go on Costa Rica, fall in love with that more. Maybe I go to visit Panama. I don't know. But either way, that's the beauty of being able to take the step and say, okay, this is my consideration set. Okay, I need to go and do a visit. What are the non-negotiables that I need to have? For some people, it's Wi-Fi, right? Especially if you are a digital nomad. For some people, there's proximity to the US for a variety of reasons I've talked about with my mom. So whatever those non-negotiables are. And then I think as women, especially, we have this superpower. We don't always listen to it. I'll include myself in this because I don't always listen to it, but we have a superpower, our internal GPS, that intuition, that gut feeling. You know what it feels when something feels right, or when you're in the flow and you can't explain what it is, but you're like, this is it. When I have that feeling, that's when I will know which country I want to lay roots to for at least that time period.
Yeah. That's good. I think Roshida felt that about Mexico City the very first time. You visited, you knew that that's where you were going to settle down.
I didn't know where I was going to be. I knew I loved it. And then, but even though I loved it, and I went back and I loved it more, and I went back and I loved it a third time, even then I was like, why? Like it never dawned on me. I traveled the world for a year, and it never dawned on me that I can actually live anywhere else, anywhere I want to. So I was in Mexico City with a girlfriend of mine, and we had just gotten to town. We're walking around, and I said, why don't I live here? And she was like, why don't you? And I was like, well, nope, I ain't got it. Like, there is no reason for me not to live here. None at all. And so that was when I was like, it's always been the city I love.
Mm.
Why not? Do you need more than that? Like what do you need to say that I'm comfortable calling this place home? Right? What does it have to be? For me, that was enough. Like, I love it here. Why not live here?
I would like to add on my list. So you had a great list, Krishan, right? Easy flight back to the US, low cost of living, good weather. I would like to add men who are average my height or taller. That is also on my list. I'm not kidding.
Wow. So you just had a live recently about men, and I know you were talking about Turkey.
Turkey, Portugal, I think that these are good shots for me, right? Because I need to add that extra thing onto my list.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Because you know what? Where I was also having a conversation with someone, it's like, okay, you know what? I will be at least feeling like I will eventually be more open to a relationship at that point.
It's taking you a long time to get that sentence out, Krishan.
It has, because I've been single for 11 years. And you know what? That's something I hold on to.
It's hard to give up your peace, right? Like, for a lot of us who've been single for a while, it's like, what would get me to not be single? Like,
yeah, it's like I want it, but I'm like, do I? You know what I mean? So that's why I like stumbled as I say it, which is also a clue for me to know I'm not ready. And so, but yeah, you know, being able to be in a location, and then, you know, like I said about the mindset piece and to do the mental work, I think is also really exciting and important. So for Stephanie, like, I know you talked about your upcoming trip next year for Turkey, like what other countries like that appeal to you that hit that, you know, men criteria?
Right?
We all leaned in.
I think my future is actually, this is going to be a surprise, but I think my future is in Ireland. Okay. I think Irish people in general are welcoming, warmer people to Black women, right? But Ireland is very expensive, very expensive. I need to get my, coins up before I know I can live in Ireland. So that's also on my list. Yeah, Turkey, Portugal, Ireland. A certain person who is here in the chat is interested in going to the Scandinavian countries who have like a girlfriend visa. So you can get a residency visa in some of these countries without being engaged, right?
Really?
So, yes. I happen to not. I boycott winter. So I'm not interested in those places. But they're also very tall people, right? So there's a country with tall men, but it doesn't fit some of the other criteria. The weather doesn't fit, and the cost of living doesn't fit. Yes, but those are that's the beginning of my list. There are a lot of places that I have not been yet, so it might be someplace else. I may go just for a visit and fall in love, right? Maybe like New Zealand. I've never been to New Zealand. I didn't enjoy Australia, but even people who don't like Australia are crazy about New Zealand. So it might be a place that is not even on the radar yet. But I know that there will be some sort of permanent settling down probably in the next maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
That was a lot. That was like 20 speakers to 50. That's like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
The next never.
I am as ready to settle down in a country as you are ready to get a relationship.
Right? Yeah, okay, that's fair.
So I keep trying to get Stephanie to come to Mexico, but we see why she won't come.
But you were in Mexico for a while, right, Stephanie? You were in La Paz.
Yeah, I spent time in Mexico, but I don't think I don't know that I would be able to get married in Mexico. Mexican men are smaller people, and the tall men never leave the house alone. Right? There's some sort
of... I've not been to Mexico. My daughter actually was just there. She just got back like a week and a half ago. But yeah, I've not been.
It ticks all the other boxes, but the taller men over like 5'10", there's some sort of law, right? They can't leave the house without a spouse or mother or someone who is blocking everything.
I am 5 and just a little bit of change. And I'm tall here. I talked to a nurse the other day who was like at my chest, and I was like,
no way,
like 6. And this isn't uncommon. Like I regularly, there are like I'll walk down a sidewalk, and there's a tree branch. Like ever like they cut the tree branches so they don't get in people's ways. There's a tree branch that my head just skims, and I'm like,
oh my gosh.
Or like cords across like the sidewalk, and it's like this would behead a tall person, but ain't nobody got to worry about that. Ain't nobody got to worry about that. Like if you are 5'9" or above in Mexico City, you are tall.
Wow. Okay.
Man or woman.
5'7.5".
Yeah. So like if you put on heels, you would be a giant. A giant.
You can see over everything.
Everybody. Literally, like there are obstacles on the sidewalks that are like 5'6".
No way. Oh my gosh.
I'm like, oh, this is fine.
Yeah.
But I don't see how it's fine for me. I don't understand how it's fine for the whole population. But okay.
All right, so we've got some criteria, we've got some places. I want to get, at least because the chat has just been lit up over here, some people talking about New Zealand. Yes, New Zealand's my happy place. I actually went to Australia and New Zealand in February of 2020 and came back in right before a lockdown. So I am waiting anxiously for New Zealand to reopen because that is my happy place. I love flying there. I mean, the flight is long, but it is my happy place.
Now you know New Zealand's gonna be the last country on the block. The last one on the block.
Last man standing. I'm not mad at them at all. You know what? I'm just like, preserve it, keep it as it is. It's a beautiful, beautiful country. The people are amazing. The Maori heritage and language is beautiful. I could just go on and on for days. So let me just see if there's any questions, because I know we've been talking for a while. If anyone has any questions, I know you ladies have been watching the chat as well, but there are, Vicky, I'll pop this one up. So Vicky was saying, this is the first time I've truly invested in myself, putting these courses into plan. I'm not sure if it's showing up. And she is attending the Exodus Summit and is planning her Blaxit. This live is giving me life. Oh, this is awesome. I'm not sure if it's showing up.
Yeah, we saw it. We saw it.
Well,
okay.
Yeah.
We're excited for you. Listen, you don't even know what's coming. You don't even know what's coming for you. After you come to this summit, after you get this information, like seriously, you don't even know what your life could look like this time next year. We're excited.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, yeah, there was a lot of comments about the men conversation. And then someone asked, where are you now, Stephanie? You're still in Delaware, right?
Excuse me, I'm in exotic Dover, Delaware.
Ooh. Oh, I like the little spin on it.
You gotta make it sound good. Yeah, I'm here for probably at least September and part of October. I'll be here.
Oh, okay.
And I head back to Mexico.
A comment about the DAFT visa, the Dutch American Friend Treaty visa for 2 years. And so, and then, and tall men. So Stephanie looked up DAFT visa for 2 years, about 4,500 euros, Americans only, tall men. Okay.
I'm gonna look it up. So the Netherlands, I have been, and they are tall and they speak a type of English that I can understand. You know how you go some places and you're like, people speak English, but I don't know what they be saying. I struggle with English, right? In England, I don't know what they talk. I can't.
Every time she says this, I have to laugh because she's like, I don't like England. Is it the men talking or is it everyone?
Men. I can't stand a man with an English accent. I can't do it. I don't know. People be like, oh, Idris Elba. I'm like, no, are you kidding? In the world. But the Netherlands, they sound more kind of like American when they speak English. So I'm gonna put that on my list. So thank you for that.
Yes. And for some reason, I'm not sure if the comment is going away. It's freezing a little bit on my side, but nevertheless, we shall carry on. If there's any other questions while I have my wonderful guests. And I'm, like I said, I'm so grateful to you ladies to give us this time on this Labor Day. Oh, let's see. There's a question for Stephanie. Let's see. I'm not sure if it's popping up.
Popped up in a second.
It's like a little lag. How do you deal with loneliness when you travel alone?
That's a good question. Loneliness is real, and it does happen when you're, traveling alone for a long period of time. I happen to be a part of some communities where people reach out to me. I am not the kind of person who will be like, oh, you're in this town, I'm in this town, let's have lunch. I'm not going to do it. I'm sorry. But people do it to me all the time. Anywhere I am, somebody will pop up. I just interviewed a woman on my channel. I was in Hoi An, Vietnam. She was like, oh, you're in Vietnam? I'm in Hoi An, Vietnam. Let's have lunch, right? So just being open, being part of a community, right, where you can somehow communicate with people, and then being open to saying yes when people are like, let's get together. I've got some friends now who I would never have been able to meet and know and hang out with just because I was in some communities and people were like, hey, let's get together. I also don't mind staying in hostels. I'll stay in a dorm room in a hostel. I know some people are absolutely not going to do that. It sounds like the worst idea in the world. But if it sounds like a decent idea as a way that you can meet people if you're in town for a long time, it's super easy, right? Basically, all you do is wake up and you have met friends in a hostel. I've done that. Of course, I house sit. So dogs and cats are some of the best company, right? House sitting with pet sitting. You know that, Roshida. You've been a dog mom. You know how wonderful they are. So being a house sitter is also an easy way to fight loneliness. And then just invite somebody to come with you. Invite them to meet you somewhere. That's something that lately has happened. Both of our moms have visited us in
I've been catching up and seeing like the Instagram and like the little, things that you show with the moms visiting and things like that. That's really exciting. Because, I think that is a real thing that happens, It can be loneliness. And, I also probably have to do some mental preparation for when that might kick in. But that's different for you all, right? Because you have major journeys. And also, I think to add to that, I think it depends on the personality. Like I'm super introverted, so I very rarely get lonely. Like I prefer being with myself. But for people who have, thrive on the community of others in that physical space, I think it's important to pay attention to. And so I wanted to see that there was another question.
Real quick, Prashant, before I left,
go for it.
Before I left on my solo journey, my therapist was like, so what are you going to do about the loneliness? And I was like, what are you talking about? She was like, you're going to get lonely. And I was like, no, I'm not. She was like, no. Okay, so quit playing games. You're going to get lonely. And my recommendation for you is just to kind of sit with the feeling instead of feeling like you have to fill in the gaps with people and things and staying busy and doing things. Just sit with the loneliness and learn how to live with it and be with it and be okay feeling it. I'm not sure, when you're traveling alone, there are truly different levels to loneliness. I'm an introvert, but after a couple weeks of not hearing anyone speak English, because that makes me, if I have to translate languages all day, I kind of feel alone, a little bit alone, and not seeing anybody who looks like me. So if I was in a country where there are very few Black Americans and very few English speakers, that exacerbated the loneliness. And so every once in a while, I'd be the person reaching out hi, I see that you're in the city. We're in this group together. How would you feel about coffee? And I'm a big introvert. So I'm not going to stay in a hostel. So there was a lot of time when I was by myself, and I'm okay being by myself. But after a while, it was she said, sit with the loneliness. But what if you just had coffee with a stranger? What if, let's just do that instead. And those are honestly really great moments, because now I have friends in different places that I wouldn't have otherwise. If I don't feel lonely, I'm good. I'm spending days on myself, I'm fine. But having those moments of loneliness lets me reaching out to people in ways I probably wouldn't have without it, and making new friends.
Yeah, that's another change. Yeah, that's another change that you don't see coming, right? Who knew that you were going to be that kind of person until you got into that situation?
Right.
Changed you.
Absolutely. And, like for me, growing up in the Bronx, in New York City, it's different from, when I visit my family, for example, in the South. People say hello, they have the little Southern, drawl and things like that. Like in New York City, it's go, 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 no eye contact, and you're closed off. So what I found is when I travel abroad, I'm liberated in a lot of ways. So like walking down the street and people saying, good morning and things like that. I was just like, oh, okay. And it's very interesting to see, at least for me, to experience this new part of myself, part of my personality that I never even knew existed,
Uh-huh.
And I talked about it, I think, in the trailer of the Blaxit Global podcast. Like when I went to New Zealand, I was like, oh, I'm just going to lay on the beach for like, what, I was there like 2 weeks or whatever. I'm going to lay on the beach. I went hiking, hiked a volcano. I'm afraid of heights. I went zip lining. I went kayaking. I don't know how to swim. There was all these things, and I was just like, "Who is this chick?" Like, But and then it was like this almost like addiction, because I was like, okay, what else does she do? What else does Krishan do? Because I didn't even know that fearless side of my personality existed. It was like I was living a life that I felt like either I was supposed to live because someone told me, or this was the construct of the expectation. And when that doesn't resonate with your spirit in whatever way, I think life will open or create opportunities that allow you to see that it is possible to operate in a different way if you lean in and allow yourself to do it.
Yeah. I think that's true for a lot of people. They don't really know who they are. I always say you don't know who you are until you don't have to work. Until you can go like a month or two, until you can wake up whenever you want and do whatever you want without anybody claiming your time, but you don't really know who you are. You don't know what you like, right? Until that moment when you're like, who do I want to be today? Because a lot of times, like you said, when you're out there exploring on your own, a lot of it is like, who do I want to be today? Am I the person who lays at the beach, or am I the person who zip lines? And you can be one thing one day and another thing the next day. But if your brain is always on work because you got to check your emails because you're never really gone, right? Or if like you have family obligations that keep you from focusing on yourself, you don't really know who you are.
Absolutely. And the thing that I find is, particularly as I start to get closer and closer to that date, now I have way more options. When I started this journey, it was like, okay, New Zealand, and I'll have to find a job and blah, blah, blah. And then as I started, creating this community, having these conversations, planning, my finances, it was either going to be a podcast about Blaxit or about finances. And now I've created Passport. It's the best of both worlds. But it's like, oh, there's now multiple pathways. And then it started to be real, where it's like, oh, you know what? Maybe I don't have to work at all. That's a new thing that I'm starting to adapt and embrace. And it's like, okay, like what does that life look like? And, and to your point, like being able to try on different things, pursue different interests. And in the United States, because probably the majority of the people that are watching this are in the United States, the construct here is designed to ensure that you are tied to systems. And oftentimes these systems were designed as systems of oppression for us, but there are only so many of us in this country. And so once they made their money off of us, it's like, oh, well, there's only like 43, 45 million Black people here. Oh, there's all these other people. And so it's just like, okay, student loans, for example. Back in the day, colleges were free. These people, these, railroad barons and all of these, people that we hold in high regard, Rockefellers and all that stuff, they went to school. They didn't have to pay for it. Their kids went to school. They didn't have to pay for it. But once we had to level the playing field, it was like, oh, now what? All of a sudden, now we have student loans, right? So it's like, oh, now we have a $1 trillion, $1.6 trillion student loan crisis. And people, again, they say, oh, I want to move up the rung, right? Oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to get an education. Okay, set education. Now you're whatever, 80,000, 100,000 in whole. Okay. Oh, wow. I met Boo. Well, Boo's got an 80, $100,000 loan too. So now y'all got $200,000 in loans. Oh, well, the American dream, we got to have the American dream. Oh, well, we got to get a house. Okay, wow, start a house. Well, that's another $500,000. Oh, well, we got to go to work to pay for all this, right? Because, well, you got to get a car. So now you and Boo got a car. So now we're up another $1,000. Two cars, right? And then it's like, ooh, me and Boo real good. Now me and Boo got kids where we got to procreate. Well, kids got to go to school and you got to put you in daycare. Because now I'm working to pay the student loan, the daycare bill, the car loan, the mortgage. Let's not even talk about the clothes and you want to travel. And so, again, it's ensured to tie you to systems. So even if you hate your job, even if it is making you sick, even if you feel like maybe your marriage is not the thing that you thought it was going to be, the person that you have been with, you are tied to systems that make it extremely difficult to break away. Right. And so what I want to get and instill in people when they listen to this conversation and these conversations about people who've actually made the step or are in the process and have taken steps to increase their knowledge to get to that next level is that when you put that time in, the payoff is so much greater. You have to be able to willing to step out on faith and make the sacrifices in the short term to get that long-term payoff. It goes back to what you said earlier, Roshida. We're not special. We're not different. It's just that we have used our time in different ways and invested in things in different ways that have made the difference and moved the needle.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I want to add in healthcare. So you were naming off the systems that we're tied to. You also can't quit your job because what's going to happen if you break your leg? Well, let me tell you, a broken leg in Thailand costs $180. So wow. Not only is education a trap, right? The financing of education is a trap, right? The paying for healthcare is also a trap here that is not the same in some other countries. There are other countries where you can go where they think healthcare is a right that the average worker should be able to afford.
Mm-hmm.
Talked to Latrice in Paris, and I think she said a doctor visit for her was like $8 or something.
Wow.
There are countries that want you to have access to healthcare at a reasonable price, that want you to have access to an education at a reasonable price, that want you to have access to the internet and at a reasonable price. Some places the internet and phone services, they don't cost this.
Oh gosh, and you're right. The healthcare, we're not as a society in the US a healthy bunch of individuals because, the food is not the same, right? We have like processed food, and I won't go on a tangent on that. But your point is there are people that delay seeking treatment because they're afraid of what the bill is, delay calling for an ambulance if that's what they need because of the bills. There are people who have gone bankrupt because they had a condition that they didn't, no one wanted to get ill, but they have a condition or they come, get a disease or something that is outside of their control. And then there's an opportunity where they lose their house or they had a preemie or whatever. And that's the thing. It's like we're seeing so many things that should be a right. Mm-hmm. That are getting stripped away. We saw the earlier last week where, the Social Security is not going to be able to pay out what it was normally supposed to pay out by like 2034 or something like that. These are things that people said, oh, you know what, at least I'll have this then, because that's what we were sold on. And it's like, not so fast, not going to be there. Right. And so that's where knowledge is power. That's where having these conversations are important. And that's where, being able to take it a step further and see what are the opportunities in other places, what are the systems that are in place and why do they exist, rather than glom onto, a soundbite of, oh, that's socialist, right? And then, oh, you close your ears and it's like horse blinders. No, you have to be able to have these important conversations, because when we look at things like our education system and the decline in our education system, especially as compared to other countries, we can see how that manifests in a lot of the things that are going on today. That's where we have, people that are, following one person and saying, oh, this is my idol, even though there are proof points along the way that say, oh, wait, this person or this belief is not based in reality or fact. And that is because, again, America particularly exists to keep you in systems and to keep you all moving in the same line along the assembly, right? You are tied to your productivity. What your output is determines your value and your worth. And what we are trying to propose is this does not have to be the way. You can do the thing and do it differently.
Yeah. A lot of what we have seen called the American dream is not that dreamy. I think that, America works as it is for the top 1%, or maybe even the top 0.5%. But for everybody else, like, we've been brainwashed into thinking that this is the way life is supposed to be. Like, yay, like you said before, the cars and the house. But like, at the cost of what? At the cost of having to pay thousands of dollars a month for healthcare if you're not getting it through your employer. And see that trick there, like if you stick, I'm in some groups where people talk about like the healthcare and how they're getting it. And a lot of people are getting jobs or even getting married just to get healthcare, right? I got to marry a man to get healthcare, when in another country it would just be, like you said, a right. Like, ew, what is that? These are things that we are so used to looking to seeming normal, but the fact that the quality of care I'm going to get and the cost of that care depends on what company I work for, or whether I work for one at all, is insane. Like, that's just insane. And the fact that the people we have put in power and entrusted with our lives, make it seem like this is just the way it's supposed to be. Like, that blows my mind all the time. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. For someone, and I spent my first, 10 plus years working in New York State government in particular. And so, as someone who grew up, passionate about politics, went into politics at a young age and, did that for 10 years. And what I read in a textbook and what the actual practice of it was vastly different. And so when I see things that are going on today, as a society, Americans have become complacent. When you look at other cultures, whether it's like France and, introducing a tax or something like that, these people get out and protest. They get in the streets and they're like, look, you work for us, not the other way around. But here it's like, oh man, where's the tax bill? Oh, this fear.
They
And
also know, but they're not going to get shot by the police for protesting, right? They're not going to get run over by a stranger in a car. Bingo. Like we talk about that a lot, about how other countries protest more. Yes. But they're not going, like in some countries, yes, they too will get shot. We've seen that this year. Sure. But in France, that's not going to happen.
They're not going to kill you for that. And the thing is, we see this happen where, we're all experiencing it now, those of us that are in the States, where outside got real expensive. And so it's like, inflation just jumped, 5%. And sometimes, like you said, people stay for the healthcare benefits or for that check, living paycheck to paycheck. And then it's like, and that, if you're lucky, 2-3% raise to keep up with the cost of living. Well, the cost of living is now at least 5% more. Mm-hmm. So you're getting that dollar that you're holding in your bank account, which I hope you're not keeping all your money in your bank account. Hopefully it's in a high interest checking account or something, a savings account. But, if you are able to take a step back and think differently and saying, okay, who's making money off of me? Mm-hmm. And then how do I start to strip away their hold on me? It makes leaving a whole lot easier. Yes. And when you've, like I said, I'm 47 years old, you grow up in this environment and that's all you know. And then it's like, remember that movie, The Matrix, right? We've been living in the Matrix. So now it's like, okay, I'm going to play a different game. I'm going to be the one that's in control of this game. And that's how you're able to kind of pull yourself back. But we all know that it's working as it was designed to.
It's very
I'm not sure if this is all too heavy for people on a Labor Day, but if y'all gonna go to work
about labor on a Labor Day,
I want you to have that in the back of your mind. How'd you spend your Labor Day?
Yeah. Yeah, I think about that. Something you said reminded me of the fact that when I was at work, from like 2010 to 2018, my motto was like, what is my job? I make rich people richer. I make rich people richer. And for most of us, that's what we do. For most of us, that's what we do. And I always had to remind myself to something I think Stephanie said earlier, like, I am not curing cancer. I do not work in an ER. It is not that important and it's not urgent. Like truly, I'm not stitching humans together. Whatever this emergency is can wait. Whatever you think is like a crisis, and if we don't solve it, the company will go out of business. It's not that important. Calm down, right? These are not life or death things. All we do is make rich people richer. Like whatever, no matter how many cogs you put together, whatever you do, at the end of the day, for most of us, I would say like 95% of us in America, that's the core of our job.
Absolutely. And guess what? Is none, that, and nobody is going to be able to be the hero and rescue us in this scenario. We have to be our own hero. We have to rescue ourselves. And that is something that I want to be the biggest takeaway is when you can look yourself in the mirror and you go, you know what? I bet on myself and job well done. So this was really great. I just want to catch if there's any other comments because I just looked at the time and I want to leave everybody. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all. Thank you both for giving your time and your energy and enthusiasm to creating what we know will be an amazing Exodus homecoming. And also for carving time out of your day to spend some time to share space virtually and talk and have this wonderful conversation. So for that, I am in deep gratitude.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us here.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you. So guys, I left it in the comments, the link to Exodus Homecoming. I will put that in the comments or the description of this video. I look forward to seeing you all there. I look forward to you listening to Roshida's episode, which is the next one of the Blaxit Global podcast. And yeah, be well. So bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. We're still here, Krishan.
I know.